He never knew love until an Apache woman appeared in his life. In school, he was the quiet one, never raising his hand to speak unless spoken to, never joining in with the noisy groups of children running through the playground. Teachers sometimes praised his intelligence, saying he was bright or thoughtful, but even their compliments never made him feel like he truly belonged. He often found himself sitting alone under a tree, reading books that transported him to places he could never reach in his real life. It was in these quiet moments that he realized something was missing. He could feel it in the hollow space in his chest, a longing he could not name, a need for something he could not find. At home, things were no better. His family loved him in their own way, but love sometimes felt like a word spoken without meaning. His parents were busy with their work, trying to make ends meet, and though they provided him with everything he needed materially, the warmth of emotional closeness was rare. Dinner conversations were short, sometimes even tense, and laughter was occasional, not constant. His siblings, though kind at times, often seemed too wrapped up in their own lives to notice him. In the quiet of his bedroom, he would listen to the faint hum of life around him and feel invisible. He longed for someone who could see him for who he truly was, someone who could understand the unspoken thoughts that occupied his mind. As he grew older, the sense of loneliness did not fade, it deepened. High school brought new challenges. There were classmates who tried to be friends, but somehow, he never felt fully accepted. Parties, outings, and gatherings felt like foreign worlds he could not enter. He watched others form friendships so effortlessly while he struggled to even say the simplest things. Even when he tried, words often stumbled out awkwardly, and the silence that followed only reminded him of the gap between himself and the rest of the world. He longed to find someone who could listen, someone who could sit beside him and understand without judgment. But every attempt seemed to slip through his fingers, leaving him more isolated than before. Work brought a different kind of life, but it did little to fill the emptiness within. He found a job that was steady, honest, and respectable. Colleagues respected him, and he performed his duties diligently. On the outside, his life looked orderly, even successful, but inside, he felt a persistent emptiness. The office chatter, the small talk during lunch breaks, the friendly smiles, all of it seemed distant, like he was watching a world he could not touch. At night, he would return to his apartment, eat a quiet dinner alone, and stare out of the window at the lights of the city, wondering why life felt so disconnected. He wanted connection, real connection, but it always seemed just out of reach. Relationships had always been difficult. He had tried to date, to find someone who could bridge the loneliness he felt, but nothing had worked. Sometimes, he would meet someone who seemed interesting at first, someone who made him smile and feel warmth. But the connection rarely lasted. He could never truly let go of the walls he had built around his heart. Fear of disappointment and rejection kept him from opening fully. He watched couples walking hand in hand, heard stories of love and marriage, and felt a mixture of envy and sadness. He longed for love, but it felt like a world he could see but never enter. Even when he tried to reach out, he often sabotaged his own chances, retreating before he could be hurt. Yet, despite all this, he did not give up. There was a small spark inside him, a hope that one day someone would come along and change everything. He believed in love, even if he had never experienced it. Deep down, he knew that life had more to offer than what he had seen so far. Every day he carried on, quietly hoping, quietly waiting. There was a part of him that dreamed of meeting someone who could see through his loneliness, someone who could bring warmth to his life. He did not know who or when, but he held onto the hope because it was the only thing that kept him going. His weekends were often quiet, spent wandering through parks or walking along the river. He loved the stillness of nature, the way the world seemed to slow down when he was alone. Birds chirping in the trees, the gentle ripple of water, the wind rustling through leaves. It was as if the world whispered to him, reminding him that life still had beauty to offer. These walks became a time for reflection. He thought about the past, about missed chances, and about the future he longed to have. Each step was a mixture of melancholy and hope, a journey through the emptiness he carried, yet also a step towards something he could not yet name. Friends were scarce, but he cherished the few he had. They were loyal and kind, but even they could not reach the parts of him that were hidden, the parts shaped by years of quiet longing. Conversations were enjoyable, yet sometimes he felt a distance, as if he were observing rather than participating fully. He wished for a companion who could reach that deeper layer, someone whose presence could fill the silent gaps in his life. He imagined what it would be like to share his day with someone who truly understood him, someone whose laughter could resonate in the quiet corners of his heart. But for now, these were just dreams, faint and fragile. In moments of solitude, he would sometimes recall fleeting memories of happiness from his childhood, times when he laughed freely, times when he felt the warmth of being truly seen. Those memories were bittersweet, reminding him both of what he had lost and of what was possible. He carried them with him like small treasures, little sparks that kept the flame of hope alive. They reminded him that even though life had been lonely so far, it had also offered moments of light, moments that hinted at the love and connection he yearned for. He never realized that life had a way of bringing unexpected encounters when one least expects them. He had walked through so many days of routine, never imagining that someone entirely different, someone from a world he had not known, could enter his life and change it forever. Little did he know that the emptiness he felt, the loneliness he had carried for so long, was about to meet its opposite, a presence so profound that it would awaken feelings he had never imagined. The world, which had seemed so distant and unattainable, was preparing to offer him a gift he had almost stopped believing in. And so, he lived his life quietly, with hope tucked away in the corners of his heart. Every day brought the same routines, the same moments of solitude, yet beneath it all, the spark of longing remained. He never stopped believing that love, in its purest form, was out there waiting for him. He did not know how or when it would come, but he felt, deep down, that it was possible. And though his heart had been lonely for so long, he carried on, walking his path with quiet patience, unaware that soon, everything he had been searching for was about to appear in the most unexpected way. He never expected his life to change so suddenly. One morning, he set out for his usual walk along the river, thinking about the quiet routines of his life and the emptiness that always lingered in his chest. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine from the nearby trees, and the sun was just beginning to climb above the horizon, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and gold. He enjoyed these early hours. They were his time of reflection, a space where he could be alone with his thoughts without the distractions of the world. Little did he know that this morning would be unlike any other. As he reached the small bridge that spanned a quiet stream, he noticed a figure ahead. She was standing by the water, her long hair catching the light of the rising sun, her movements calm and graceful. Something about her presence made him pause. He had seen people in the park many times before, but there was a unique energy about her, something quiet, yet magnetic. She seemed connected to the world around her, as if she were a part of nature itself. He felt a strange pull toward her, a curiosity that he had never experienced before. He watched from a distance, unsure whether to approach. She turned slightly, and their eyes met for the briefest of moments. There was warmth in her gaze, but also a depth that seemed to look straight into him, into the parts of himself he usually kept hidden. He felt his heart quicken, a mixture of nervousness and wonder filling him. He had never been this affected by someone so quickly. Usually, people came and went without leaving any mark on his life, but she was different. There was an unspoken invitation in her smile, a silent understanding that made him feel seen in a way he had never been seen before. Gathering his courage, he walked toward her. He tried to think of what to say, but his mind went blank. Finally, he managed a simple greeting. She responded with a soft, melodic voice that immediately put him at ease. They exchanged a few words about the morning, the beauty of the sunrise, and the calmness of the river. It was a simple conversation, yet it left him feeling lighter than he had in years. There was a sense of ease between them, a natural rhythm that made talking to her feel effortless. Over the next few days, he found himself returning to the park more often, hoping to see her again. He told himself it was just coincidence, that he would go for a walk anyway, but deep down, he knew it was more than that. Each time he saw her, he discovered something new: her gentle laugh, the way she listened intently, the way her eyes seemed to notice the smallest details around her. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, and he was fascinated by her. Their conversations grew longer and more personal. She spoke of her life, her family, and her Apache heritage with pride and warmth. He listened with genuine interest, realizing that he was learning about a world completely different from his own. She told him stories of her childhood, growing up in a community that valued tradition, respect, and connection to nature. She spoke of ceremonies, dances, and the wisdom passed down from elders. He found himself captivated not just by her words, but by the way she spoke, so alive, so full of life and respect for the world around her. Each story she shared painted a vivid picture, and he could see the strength and resilience in her upbringing. He admired the way she carried herself, the confidence and grace that seemed natural yet profound. As their conversations continued, he began to open up about his own life. At first, he hesitated, unsure if she would understand. He spoke about his childhood, his struggles with loneliness, and the emptiness he had carried for so long. To his surprise, she listened without judgment, nodding and smiling with a quiet understanding that made him feel safe. He realized he had never shared these thoughts with anyone before, and it felt liberating to finally speak them aloud. Her presence made him feel seen, not for what he did or achieved, but for who he was inside. They started to spend more time together. Sometimes it was simple, walking along the river, visiting the small market in town, or sitting quietly in the park sharing thoughts and dreams. Other times they joined community events, where she introduced him to traditions, dances, and music he had never experienced before. He watched her interact with others, the respect she earned from everyone around her, and he felt a deep admiration for her. He saw how her life was rooted in community, culture, and care for others, and he began to see the possibility of a life that was richer and fuller than the one he had been living alone. He also noticed small things that made her unique. The way she paused to listen to the wind, the way she carefully treated every living creature she encountered, and the quiet determination in her actions. She seemed to live in harmony with the world, and it fascinated him. He began to reflect on his own life, realizing how disconnected he had been from the beauty around him. Her presence was a mirror, showing him not just love, but a way to experience life fully. He started paying attention to small moments, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves, the warmth of the sun, noticing things he had overlooked for years. As days turned into weeks, he realized that he was thinking about her constantly. Her smile, her laughter, and the stories she shared lingered in his mind long after they parted. He found himself looking forward to their meetings, planning his days around the hope of seeing her again. For the first time, he understood the excitement and nervousness that came with meeting someone special. His heart, which had long been quiet and guarded, was beginning to beat with anticipation and warmth. He felt a connection that was deeper than friendship, a bond that went beyond the ordinary interactions of life. Despite his growing feelings, he was cautious. He had been hurt before, and the walls around his heart were still strong. Yet with her, it felt different. He felt safe, understood, and respected. He could talk openly without fear, laugh freely without pretending, and simply be himself. He realized that love, in its truest form, was not just about passion or attraction. It was about trust, respect, and the ability to be vulnerable with someone who cared deeply. She showed him, without words, that love could be gentle, patient, and transformative. One afternoon, while they sat by the river, she spoke about her dreams for the future. She wanted to continue working in her community, preserving traditions and helping others. She spoke with such passion and dedication that he was inspired. He realized that love was not just about emotions. It was also about admiration and support. He wanted to be part of her world, not to change her, but to stand beside her and share in her journey. In that moment, he understood that his life had been waiting for this connection, for someone who could awaken the feelings he had never known. Their bond continued to grow, built on trust, respect, and shared experiences. He began to notice the subtle ways she cared for him, how she listened when he spoke, how she encouraged his curiosity, and how she gently challenged him to see the world differently. He, in turn, tried to show her the beauty of his life, sharing small joys and quiet moments that he had never thought worth mentioning before. Together, they created a space of understanding and warmth, a world where two very different lives could meet and flourish. He began to feel emotions he had never experienced before. There was joy, excitement, and a quiet peace that came from being truly seen and accepted. He realized that love was not just a feeling of happiness, it was a presence, a constant support, and a deep understanding that grew over time. With her, he felt alive in a way he had never known. He understood that the loneliness he had carried for so long was not a part of him to keep forever. It was simply a space waiting to be filled by someone extraordinary. And so, life began to change for him. Each day brought new experiences, new conversations, and new feelings. He was learning, growing, and opening his heart in ways he had never imagined. Meeting her was not just an encounter, it was a turning point, a beginning of a journey that would forever alter his understanding of love, connection, and life itself. The emptiness that had defined his days was slowly being replaced by warmth, hope, and the joy of discovering someone who truly mattered. He did not yet know what the future held, but he understood one thing clearly. Life had introduced him to something precious, something worth waiting for all these years. In the presence of this Apache woman, he discovered not only love, but also a reflection of what life could be when shared with someone who saw the world as he did, with care, respect, and wonder. The river flowed quietly beside them. The sun continued to rise, and he realized that this was just the beginning of a journey that would change everything he had ever known about himself and the world around him. As the weeks passed, their friendship began to grow into something deeper, a bond that neither of them could ignore. They met regularly, sometimes by chance in the park, sometimes intentionally, seeking each other out. Each meeting brought new stories, new laughs, and new understanding. He discovered that she had a remarkable way of making even the simplest moments feel special. A walk by the river, a shared cup of coffee, or even just sitting quietly together became moments of connection he had never experienced before. He felt drawn to her, not just by her beauty, which was undeniable, but by her spirit, her kindness, and the wisdom she carried with her. She, too, seemed to enjoy his presence. She would ask questions about his life, his dreams, and his thoughts, and she listened with patience and genuine interest. She never judged him or his past, even when he shared stories of his loneliness and insecurities. Instead, she offered understanding and gentle encouragement, helping him to see himself in a new light. He began to realize that trust was growing between them. He felt safe sharing parts of himself that he had hidden from the world for so long, and her presence became a source of comfort he could not imagine living without. Over time, he learned more about her culture and heritage. She spoke about her Apache roots with pride, explaining the importance of family, community, and respect for nature. She told him about the traditions that had been passed down through generations, the ceremonies that celebrated life and connection, and the teachings that emphasized strength, resilience, and compassion. He listened intently, fascinated by the depth of her knowledge and the clarity with which she shared it. Each story she told was a window into her world, a world so different from his own, yet one that he felt compelled to understand. He began to see how her upbringing shaped her character. She was confident yet humble, strong yet gentle, independent yet deeply connected to those around her. He admired the balance she maintained in her life, the way she honored her traditions while embracing the present. Being with her made him reflect on his own life, the choices he had made, the walls he had built, and the opportunities he had missed by keeping his heart closed. Slowly, he began to recognize that love was not just about emotions. It was also about growth, understanding, and the willingness to open oneself to another person completely. Their connection was not without its challenges, however. At times, he felt unsure of himself, wondering if he truly belonged in her world. Her life was rich with culture and experiences he had never known, and he worried that he could never measure up. There were moments of awkwardness, moments when he struggled to understand her customs or to find the right words to express himself. Yet she always responded with patience and encouragement, never making him feel small or unworthy. Her kindness gave him the courage to keep learning, to keep trying, and to keep opening his heart. He began to notice the small details that made their bond special. The way she would smile when he spoke about his passions, the way she would listen intently without interrupting, the way her laughter could brighten even the dullest of days. He realized that love was not just about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was about the little things, the moments of attention, care, and understanding that built a foundation strong enough to support something lasting. Every shared meal, every walk, every quiet moment of companionship became part of the tapestry of their growing relationship. She, too, was learning from him. She appreciated his thoughtfulness, his honesty, and his quiet strength. He had a way of noticing things she overlooked, of asking questions that made her think, of offering support without judgment. She began to rely on his perspective, valuing his insights and enjoying his company in ways that went beyond friendship. Their bond became reciprocal, each giving and receiving in equal measure. He discovered that love was not about giving endlessly or expecting endlessly. It was about balance, mutual respect, and the joy of being present for one another. As their relationship deepened, they faced the realities of their differences. He came from a world that was structured and predictable, while hers was rich with tradition, community, and a deep connection to nature. Sometimes misunderstandings arose, differences in perspective, expectations, or communication, but each challenge became an opportunity to learn and grow. They would talk through their disagreements patiently, listening carefully to each other's point of view, and in doing so, they strengthened their bond. They discovered that love was not a smooth path, but one that required effort, understanding, and patience. He began to see changes within himself. The loneliness that had defined his life for so long began to fade. He felt more confident, more open, and more willing to embrace the unknown. Her influence was subtle yet profound, encouraging him to explore parts of himself he had long ignored. He started noticing the beauty in the world around him, appreciating the small joys of daily life that he had previously overlooked. A bird's song, the feel of sunlight on his face, or the gentle rustle of leaves in the wind became moments of wonder rather than background noise. He realized that love could transform not only the heart, but also the way one experienced life itself. They began sharing dreams and aspirations more openly. He spoke about his hopes for the future, the things he wished to achieve, and the life he wanted to build. She encouraged him to pursue his passions, offering guidance and support while sharing her own dreams of helping her community, preserving traditions, and living a life of purpose. Together, they envisioned a future where their worlds could blend, a life where love, culture, and mutual respect coexisted harmoniously. The idea of building something together excited him, giving him a sense of purpose he had never felt before. As time went on, their moments together became richer, deeper, and more meaningful. They began to share not only happiness but also vulnerability. He trusted her with his fears, his regrets, and his insecurities, and she responded with empathy, never criticism. She shared her own challenges, her own struggles, and the obstacles she had overcome, showing him that strength and vulnerability could coexist. Through these shared experiences, they discovered a profound connection that went beyond attraction or friendship. It was a bond rooted in trust, understanding, and shared humanity. He began to understand that love was not about perfection, it was about acceptance. It was about seeing another person fully, embracing their strengths and weaknesses, and choosing to stay despite the imperfections. She had shown him that love could be steady, patient, and nurturing, unlike the fleeting experiences he had known before. With her, he felt a sense of belonging, a feeling that he had never experienced, and it filled the emptiness that had long haunted him. He realized that love was not a magical cure for all loneliness, but it was a force that could help heal, transform, and inspire. Their bond continued to grow stronger with every shared moment. They laughed together, explored the world around them, and discovered the joy of companionship. Each day brought new insights, new experiences, and new reasons to care for one another. The connection they shared became a source of strength, a foundation upon which they could build their lives. He began to look forward to each day with a sense of excitement and hope, knowing that she would be a part of it. He understood that life had changed in a way he could never have imagined, and he embraced it fully. Through their growing relationship, he learned the importance of patience, empathy, and understanding. He saw that love was not always easy, but it was always worth the effort. He realized that differences in background, culture, or perspective were not obstacles but opportunities to learn and grow. By embracing these differences, they had created a connection that was rich, meaningful, and resilient. He felt grateful for the lessons she had taught him, not only about love but also about life, respect, and the power of genuine connection. In this phase of their relationship, he also began to appreciate the power of quiet moments. Sitting together in silence, walking through nature, or simply sharing a meal became experiences filled with meaning. He realized that love did not always require words or actions. It could be expressed through presence, attention, and shared understanding. The simplicity of these moments made him appreciate the depth of their bond even more. He understood that love was as much about everyday experiences as it was about grand gestures. By now, he had begun to see the world differently. Colors seemed brighter, sounds richer, and life itself more vibrant. He was learning to embrace uncertainty, to welcome new experiences, and to trust in the possibilities of love. He felt a growing sense of confidence, a belief that he could face challenges, and a willingness to be vulnerable in ways he had never been before. Through their connection, he discovered not only the beauty of love but also the beauty within himself, the capacity to feel deeply, to care genuinely, and to grow alongside another person. As part 3 comes to a close, their relationship had become something far greater than he had ever imagined. It was no longer just a budding friendship or a series of chance encounters. It was a partnership built on mutual respect, understanding, and a shared desire to explore life together. He had opened his heart in ways he never thought possible, and she had welcomed him with patience, wisdom, and love. Together, they had begun to create a story of connection, growth, and hope, a story that would continue to unfold in the coming days, filled with both challenges and triumphs. As their relationship grew deeper, he realized that love was not always simple. The joy of being together was matched by challenges they had not anticipated. Differences in their backgrounds became more noticeable, and sometimes misunderstandings arose. He came from a world of structure and predictability, while she carried the richness of her Apache heritage, traditions, values, and ways of seeing the world that were foreign to him. At times, he struggled to understand her perspective, and at other times, she found it difficult to understand his. But despite these differences, they both wanted to make their connection work. One of the first challenges came from communication. He was used to expressing himself in straightforward ways, speaking logically and directly. She, however, often communicated with subtlety, using gestures, expressions, and stories that carried deep meaning. Sometimes he misinterpreted her intentions, and she occasionally felt he was distant or unresponsive. These small misunderstandings caused tension, and for the first time, he felt uncertainty in the relationship. He realized that love was not just about feelings. It also required patience, learning, and the willingness to see the world through someone else's eyes. They faced challenges in their daily routines as well. She was deeply involved in her community, attending gatherings, ceremonies, and volunteer work. He admired her dedication, but sometimes felt left out or unsure of how to participate. He worried that he could never truly belong in her world. At first, he hesitated to join her, afraid of making mistakes or offending her. But she encouraged him gently, showing him that he was welcome and that learning was part of the journey. Slowly, he began to embrace these experiences, finding joy in understanding her life more fully. Despite the challenges, their love continued to grow. They shared quiet moments that strengthened their bond. A simple walk in the park, a conversation over coffee, or sitting together under the stars became times of connection and reflection. He began to notice how her presence made even ordinary moments feel extraordinary. He learned to appreciate silence as much as conversation, understanding that love could be expressed not only through words, but also through presence, attention, and care. Each shared moment reinforced the trust and intimacy they were building. Challenges also arose from external pressures. Friends and family sometimes questioned their relationship, unsure how two people from such different backgrounds could find common ground. He felt a mix of frustration and determination. He knew that their connection was real, built on respect, understanding, and genuine care. He wanted to show others, and perhaps remind himself, that love could transcend differences. She, too, faced pressures from her community, where traditions and expectations carried weight. Yet, she navigated these challenges with grace, teaching him that love required resilience, courage, and a willingness to stand together against doubts or skepticism. As they navigated these challenges, moments of joy became even more meaningful. They celebrated small victories, understanding a complex tradition, resolving a misunderstanding, or simply spending uninterrupted time together. Each victory, no matter how minor it seemed, strengthened their connection and deepened their commitment. He realized that love was not about avoiding difficulties, but about facing them together, learning from them, and growing stronger as a result. Every challenge they overcame became a testament to the strength of their bond. He also learned to appreciate the strength and independence she brought to the relationship. She was a person of conviction, with her own dreams, goals, and responsibilities. He admired her ability to balance her personal life with her dedication to her community. Her strength inspired him to confront his own fears, to step outside his comfort zone, and to embrace the challenges that life presented. Through her example, he began to see that love was not about possession or control, but about mutual support, respect, and encouragement. There were moments of tension, of course. They disagreed on small things, plans, routines, or interpretations of traditions. At first, these disagreements frustrated him, and he sometimes wanted to retreat into the safety of his old habits. But she taught him the importance of dialogue, of listening without judgment, and of seeking understanding rather than victory. He realized that compromise was not about giving up, but about finding solutions that honored both their perspectives. Each disagreement became a learning opportunity, helping them build a foundation of respect, communication, and collaboration. He noticed how their differences also became sources of enrichment. Her culture and traditions offered him new experiences, new ways of seeing the world, and new skills. He learned about ceremonies, dances, and storytelling, discovering beauty and meaning he had never known before. She, in turn, learned from his perspective, appreciating the ways he brought thoughtfulness, curiosity, and patience into their shared experiences. Together, they created a space where two worlds could blend, where differences were celebrated rather than feared, and where love could grow in unexpected ways. Amidst these challenges, their emotional connection deepened. He found himself confiding in her more than he ever had with anyone else. He spoke of past regrets, fears, and insecurities, and she offered reassurance and understanding. She shared her own vulnerabilities, creating a bond built on honesty, trust, and empathy. He realized that love was not just about happiness. It was about supporting each other through difficulties, standing together when life was complicated, and offering comfort in times of doubt. Their love became a safe haven, a place where both could be fully themselves without fear of judgment. He also began to notice how love could transform everyday life. Tasks that had once felt mundane, grocery shopping, cooking a meal, or running errands, became opportunities for connection. They learned to work together, sharing responsibilities, joking, and finding small joys in the routine. Through these moments, he saw that love was not only about extraordinary experiences, but also about finding meaning and happiness in the ordinary. He realized that love could turn daily life into a series of shared adventures, where even the simplest moments became memorable. Their growing love was not just about emotions. It was about learning, growth, and transformation. He discovered patience he did not know he had, empathy he had never practiced, and courage he had long suppressed. He learned to listen, to compromise, and to celebrate differences rather than fear them. Through her, he saw the power of connection, the importance of understanding, and the joy that comes from sharing life with someone who truly cares. She, in turn, learned to trust, to open her heart more fully, and to embrace the possibilities of love that transcends boundaries. Challenges continued to appear, but they approached each one with determination. Financial concerns, family expectations, and cultural misunderstandings all tested their commitment. Yet, each obstacle became a chance to grow, to communicate more deeply, and to support each other in new ways. They discovered that love was not about perfection, but about resilience, understanding, and the willingness to work together. Every challenge they overcame strengthened their bond and deepened their respect for one another. He began to notice subtle changes in himself. The loneliness that had once defined his life was slowly being replaced by warmth, hope, and a sense of belonging. He felt more confident, more compassionate, and more willing to take risks, not just in the relationship, but in life itself. Her influence was profound, encouraging him to embrace life fully, to notice beauty in the small things, and to trust in the possibilities of love. He realized that love was transformative, not because it erased difficulties, but because it helped him grow into a better version of himself. Through it all, they continued to share moments of laughter, joy, and tenderness. They explored new places together, celebrated traditions, and created memories that would last a lifetime. Every smile, every touch, every shared experience reinforced the bond they were building. He understood that love was not a fleeting emotion but a continuous journey, one that required effort, understanding, and commitment. The challenges they faced made the joyful moments even sweeter, highlighting the depth and authenticity of their connection. As part 4 comes to a close, he understood that love was not simple, but it was worth every struggle. Through challenges, misunderstandings, and differences, they had built a connection that was resilient, meaningful, and enduring. He had learned that love required patience, empathy, and the willingness to grow alongside another person. And he realized, with a quiet sense of wonder, that the woman who had entered his life had not only awakened feelings he had never known, but had also shown him the true power of love, the power to transform, to heal, and to inspire. By now, he had come a long way from the lonely man he once was. The quiet emptiness that had haunted him for years had gradually been replaced by warmth, hope, and a sense of purpose he had never experienced. Her presence in his life had been transformative, not because she had solved all his problems, but because she had shown him how to embrace life fully, to feel deeply, and to trust in love. He realized that love was not just an emotion, it was a choice, an effort, a shared journey that required patience, understanding, and devotion. Every day with her was a lesson in life, in connection, and in growth. He observed her patience, her ability to face difficulties with grace, and her unwavering dedication to her community. He admired the way she balanced her responsibilities with her personal joys, how she celebrated life even amidst challenges, and how she carried herself with dignity and compassion. Watching her navigate the world with such strength and authenticity inspired him to do the same. He began to notice subtle changes within himself. He became more confident, more empathetic, and more willing to take risks, not just in love, but in life itself. Their relationship had reached a depth that went beyond words. They shared experiences that were joyful, challenging, and deeply meaningful. Together, they explored not only the external world, but also the inner landscapes of their hearts and minds. He learned to express his feelings openly, to communicate his needs and desires, and to listen to hers with patience and care. She, in turn, trusted him with her thoughts, fears, and hopes, creating a bond built on honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. Love, he realized, was not simply about happiness. It was about growth, transformation, and the courage to be vulnerable. Over time, he also learned to embrace her culture and traditions more fully. He participated in ceremonies, community gatherings, and family events, not as an outsider, but as someone who genuinely wanted to understand and honor her world. With each experience, he discovered new perspectives, new ways of seeing the world, and new lessons about life, respect, and community. She guided him gently, never forcing him to adopt anything, but encouraging him to participate and to learn. He came to appreciate the richness of her heritage and the wisdom it held, realizing that love could also mean embracing the world of someone else and finding joy in their experiences. He saw how their love had affected both of them. She had opened his heart to emotions he had long suppressed, while he had shown her that trust, patience, and understanding could deepen a connection even further. They had grown together, learning from each other's strengths and supporting each other through weaknesses. Their differences, once sources of minor tension, had become a source of enrichment and mutual respect. He realized that love was not about erasing differences, but about honoring them, learning from them, and creating a shared life that celebrated both perspectives. Life, of course, still presented challenges. They faced moments of doubt, small misunderstandings, and times when the weight of external pressures threatened to overwhelm them. He sometimes questioned whether he could truly belong in her world, and she occasionally wondered whether he could fully embrace her culture and values. Yet, each time they confronted these uncertainties, they did so together, communicating openly and supporting one another. These experiences strengthened their bond, showing them that love was not fragile. It was resilient, enduring and capable of weathering difficulties when both people were committed to each other. One evening, as they sat beneath a sky full of stars, he reflected on the journey that had brought them together. He thought about the years of loneliness, the quiet walks by the river, and the empty days that had once defined his life. And he thought about her, the way she had appeared in his life, seemingly by chance, and had transformed it completely. He realized that love had a way of finding people when they least expected it, that life had a way of introducing extraordinary people into ordinary routines, and that the smallest encounters could have the greatest impact. In that moment, he understood the true meaning of love. It was not just about passion, excitement, or fleeting emotions. It was about presence, care, trust, and the willingness to grow alongside another person. It was about sharing joys and challenges, celebrating successes, and comforting each other through hardships. Love was about seeing someone fully, embracing them for who they were, and choosing to stay committed even when life was complicated. She had shown him all of this, not through words alone, but through her actions, her patience, and her unwavering presence in his life. He also recognized the transformation within himself. He was no longer the man who felt invisible and disconnected. He had learned to embrace his own emotions, to express himself openly, and to seek connection rather than retreating into solitude. He had discovered strength he did not know he possessed, courage to face challenges, and the ability to trust in something greater than himself. Her influence had awakened a side of him that had been dormant for years, a side capable of love, empathy, and deep connection. Together, they began to imagine a shared future. They spoke about dreams, aspirations, and the life they wanted to build together. He imagined a life where they could continue learning from each other, supporting each other, and exploring the world together. She envisioned a life where their bond could inspire and enrich both of their communities, a life where love and understanding could bridge differences and create harmony. They dreamed of traveling, creating memories, and continuing to grow together, knowing that life would always have challenges, but confident that they could face them side by side. Through all of this, he came to understand that love was transformative. It had changed his perception of the world, his understanding of himself, and his approach to relationships. He realized that the emptiness he had once felt was not a permanent state. It was a space waiting to be filled by connection, understanding, and genuine care. Her presence had filled that space, bringing warmth, joy, and meaning to his life. He understood that true love did not erase struggles, but it made them bearable, giving strength, comfort, and hope in ways that nothing else could. He also noticed the ways in which their bond enriched their communities. Through her influence, he became more involved in helping others, participating in cultural events, and supporting initiatives that promoted understanding and respect. Together, they created a positive impact, not only for themselves but for those around them. He realized that love could be expansive, extending beyond the personal realm into the world, fostering kindness, compassion, and shared growth. Their relationship became a symbol of possibility, showing that differences could be embraced, challenges could be overcome, and genuine connection could flourish. As time passed, their relationship became a source of inspiration and joy. Friends and family noticed the transformation in him, the confidence, warmth, and openness that had replaced the loneliness of his past. They saw the respect, care, and mutual admiration between him and her, recognizing the authenticity of their bond. He understood that love was not only personal but also relational, affecting the people around them by example. The partnership they had built was strong, resilient, and rooted in understanding, demonstrating that love could endure, grow, and inspire. He also reflected on the lessons he had learned. He had discovered patience, empathy, and resilience. He had learned to embrace differences, to communicate openly, and to approach life with curiosity and gratitude. He had understood that love was not about perfection, but about commitment, understanding, and the willingness to grow together. And above all, he had learned that life had a way of bringing the right people into one's path at the right time, often when hope seemed distant and change seemed impossible. As the story neared its natural conclusion, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. He was grateful for the years of loneliness that had taught him patience, for the challenges that had strengthened his character, and for the woman who had entered his life and shown him the true power of love. She had not only awakened his heart but had also taught him the meaning of connection, respect, and shared growth. Their journey was far from over, but he felt ready to embrace the future with confidence, knowing that together they could face anything. In the quiet moments when they sat together watching the sunset, walking through nature, or simply sharing a meal, he felt a deep sense of peace. He understood that love was not always dramatic or extraordinary. It was often quiet, patient, and enduring. It was in the gestures, the care, and the consistent presence of someone who truly understood you. He realized that he had finally found the love he had been seeking, not just in emotions, but in the transformation it had brought to his life, his perspective, and his heart. And so, he embraced the future with hope and excitement. The man who had once been lonely, detached, and unsure had become someone capable of love, connection, and growth. He had discovered that life could be extraordinary when shared with someone who truly sees you, respects you, and walks beside you through the journey of life. Her presence had awakened him, inspired him, and shown him that love was not just a dream. It was a living, breathing force that could transform lives, hearts, and the world around them. Together, they looked forward to the days ahead, filled with shared adventures, new experiences, and the ongoing joy of growing together. They knew challenges would come, as life always brought them, but they also knew that love, built on respect, understanding, and patience, could withstand anything. The journey they had begun had changed both of them forever, and as they walked forward hand in hand, they understood that this was not the end, but the beginning of a lifetime of connection, growth, and love.